Good evening.
Aye.
Okay, hold on. Where are we up to?
Page Chaf Gimel. Looks like Ois Vav.
Nice and up. Okay, okay. Okay, let me share screen here. Okay. Hefker Sholama Maasi. The Hefker of the practical world. Upon mitoch hispartus olam mukni below seder of tikun shel kodesh. So the practical world has become loose and disordered because there's been this breaking into the spiritual world. It was an attempt, I guess, to take the spirituality in some way, shape, or form. Below Seder v'tikun shel kodesh, not in a holy way. Which it's interesting that Rav Kook writes that because I think it's become new age religiosity has become much more of an issue in contemporary times than it was at the time of Rav Kook. V'shem shumonea es or hakodesh, he's just like it prevents the light of holiness from expanding into the expanse of existence. Kachu moridas erko, so too diminishes its value, machshich es ifato, and it darkens its. Ifato is a hard word to translate. I'm not even sure. It's like it's beauty, but it's also like it's glory. It's a hard word to translate. Barum Elyon. In its loftiness. In other words, again, I don't know how it was manifested on Cook's time, but clearly, New Age spirituality has diminished the significance and sense of holiness of spirituality, and become like a caricature of what spirituality actually is supposed about. Nishar Tzir Eloki, the divine imagery, becomes She'en Kates Sof, which has no limit or end. No beginning or end to its loftiness. Mach v'nishpal. It's diminished and lowered. Oyev Charaf Hashem. And the enemy has blasphemed God. V'am Naval Niatzu Shmecha. And a degraded nation scoffed at your name. Kavas Anovim Gulas Hashem. The yearning of the meek is to redeem HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Orot Yisroel Modia, the light. I don't know. It's not redeeming HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's redemption of Hashem. Orot Yisroel Modia Hashem Hashem Makim, and the light of Am Yisrael is supposed to notify the Shem Hashem on high and below. Omek hashpalas harashgacha v'ashlita, and all of the depth of the diminution of the concept of the hashgacha of Hashem and shlita and the governance of Hashem. Havaya v'yitzira mevia romamus no. So omek hashpalas hashgacha v'ashlita havaya v'yitzira mevia romus hashgacha is alus ein sof. How did that work? How does that? I'll make hashpala Shpas hashgacha b'shlita. But how did it bring about Romus hashkafa v'alisalus ein sof? Unless he means that kom shetam say lo social kush baruch shem atam say and v'stonu so that the Hashem's deliberately coming down into the world, and being mashpia means to bring down low into the world. Hashgacha and the shlita, havai etzira. They bring romus hashkapi thousand. So, but I still don't see how that works.
I don't have an answer for that.
What?
I don't have an answer for that. I don't see how it works either.
Okay, Tabasi Migulas Hashem. Roche Samadhi Hashem Hashem Marimakim. I guess I can say because Bimromim Uvamamakim. In other words, there you can have a conscious spirituality which requires that you transcend this world, which would make sense. But Rav Kook is saying that no, that is not the purpose of Hashkafas Hashem. It's not the purpose of the Orot Shel Yisroel, but rather it's to bring the light into the lowest places, and that brings the Romus Hashkafa v'Hisalu Ein Sof. In other words, the darker the corner that the light illuminates, the more powerful the light, the more significant the light. I think that's what he's saying.
Mhm.
There is a time when wickedness gathers its power, which is diffused in all of the expanses of the external world, in every circle of deed and activity. And it adds lightning, in other words, radiance, illumination to the spiritual, the imagery of the spiritual burning. Even though it's from false magic, sheker, and falsehood, which has no legs. It takes from the radiance of Kedusha by theft. So there's evidently rishus can evidently have a spiritual force, and it's not to be taken. It's seems to be radiant with holiness. So I don't know. I have no idea what it's referring to historically, but I would say that it could be that he's referring to utopian movements, which existed at the time of Rav Kook's flourishing and writing this. And he's saying that these utopian movements seem to have this great spiritual radiance to them, and he says there is in a utopian movement an element of Ziv Kodesh B'Gneva. In other words, it's to look for a utopian milieu in this world is a very positive thing. It's messianic. It fixes. It uplifts, but it's not the real thing. It's a lie if it's not based on HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if it's not something which comes from Torah and mitzvos. So Kedusha has to take back all of these stolen lights. So in other words, any, let's say, ism, right, as they used to call them, which has validity to it, it's a stolen light, which then has to be harnessed and transformed by the light of Judaism and reabsorbed and create a Torah idealism. And the idealism of holiness instead of idealism of utopianism. So, because again, and that fits much more into the milieu of Rav Kook than New Age spirituality, which really didn't exist at the time. But many utopian movements existed, and many utopian philosophies existed. And I think Rav Kook is probably speaking about them and saying that they borrow certain positive aspects which we possess, but they're illusory, and they don't end up well. I had a Rosh Yeshiva once said, I had a Rosh Yeshiva about whom it was once said, in a negative way, that if you try to change the world ends up changing you. So he tried to change the world changed him. So in any so the this has all these stolen rights have to be brought back. And from the depth of our capacity to depict things with our munah vat oras, vat oras. Do you have hat oras here?
Yes.
Hat oras ideale hamusar. Hat oras. Hat oras. I guess he means illumination.
I would have thought like toar, like a name or a designation.
Designation, okay. Fine, that's better. That's fine, correct. But Torah's Yalei Musar and the descriptions of the ideals of Muslim, which certainly utopian movements claim to represent. Mizgalim is Amsim Yoser v'Yoser. They become greater and more powerful. Shibyasoyev by
I would think, yeah,
taking the enemy captive. And bringing back all the souls and all the property that it took. And making it like a pond which has no fish. And like a net, a trap which has no. It's it's like a barn.
Storehouse.
Shema Duggan, which has no grain. So okay, so I think that's in the final analysis we do have this down pat that there are many utopian movements, and the people nowadays would say this about perhaps certain left-wing movements, but just about right-wing movements. Everybody is their own brand of utopianism. And as long as it's not grounded in Torah, it's a sheker b'chosam. And there is a certain type of inspiration, a certain type of idealism, which can be taken back into the Kodesh. It must be taken back into the Kodesh. But
I think he's also saying that all of these movements have to have some sort of nugget of true spirituality, even though it's sort of, it's twisted or it's false or it's made false. It's not
right.
But there has to be something.
Right. I think coming
of
back
holiness or some element of something that is holy.
Right. So I think coming back to contemporary times, Marshall would be again going with New Age spirituality, which he's not, as we say, is not dealing with. Would be like Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan would take the spiritual aspect of the New Age Buddhist, neo-Buddhist movements and show how they were actually had parallels and sources and can be reabsorbed into Torah. So that would be a way, a similar idea. Nowadays, I think people don't actually look back at utopian movements with any degree of fondness or any degree of empathy and say, okay, there was something there. Let's see what was positive. Let's take from it. I think people just dismiss them nowadays. But that's part of the cynicism which developed over time, which probably Rav Kook's time probably didn't exist to the same extent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now let's do Zion, that's so long. Just like we recognize conditions of climate, which are appropriate for different types of animals or vegetation. Yosef moved on. There are different types of climates, of ecosystems, I guess you'd say nowadays. Hayam ve'abosha, the sea and the land. Hapifa ba'avir, those which fly in the air. V'alichon, those which walk. He who's suited for a certain ecosystem. If he changes his task for that which is strange for him, he's going to damage his soul. So to our spiritual exchanges. In terms of the inner aspects of their life values. In every spiritual sphere, there are different manifestations. Tzibion is qualities. There's a better word, but I can't think of it. Special unique qualities. When this has to do with just with the intellect, with recognizing different spheres, it doesn't penetrate so much the depth of life. But once it becomes emotional, it becomes much more impactful on life. Based on their specific conditions. What do you have? Do you have hashava?
Ukesheba.
Ukesheba. Ukesheba ide emunat vekus. We can't fit emunat vekus in a different system than is your system. As a chaim with boimin matbiasam yuchada, then life becomes coined in its unique coin. Well, I guess actually when it comes to emunat vekus in a system. So if you have the unique characteristics, if they're appropriate for this profession, this I guess this
trade, this trait.
As him is Barchim Misajim, then they're blessed and made powerful, more powerful. So it's not appropriate for him. As based on the measure of distance and contradiction. And the extent to which they get embedded and rooted in it, so there's going to be destruction and desolation or loss. This is the deeper characteristic of what the metaphor calls being careful of a dangerous woman. In the spiritual sense, right? The Asher Darchesh Obesa said the pathways of the grave. Like and her feet go to extend down to death. So that is this idea of looking for systems, and very much connected to the previous piece, which are inappropriate for one. Unfortunately, how great is the gravitational pull for those who are soft of heart and Ktane Das and small in intellect. They follow her, all of a sudden, Kishor Tevach Yavo, like an ox to slaughter. Achas and Musar Evil. Achas, I think, is a form of the serpent, and to the distorted ethics. Anyway, basically, the Bechush Kodesh Amok Shalo, Eichli Shorei Pachyochi. Amisol knows in the deep sense of holiness it has, how to preserve itself from the trap of the minefield. Who reviews and knows of clarity, how to protect its spiritual firm spiritual position. Also even fighting that gravitational pull of that which is foreign. But was this Hasar?
Asher.
He goes to bed Imo, which is uprooted from the womb of the mother. Is Nakra the council of Tchuna after it's acquired a foreign characteristic. Not sure exactly what the marshal is there, but Obviously, this is polychronistic is some sort of foreign womb of some sort. Besiteas are used. All of the details of the foreignness equals roots, the quality of preservation. No, Ishtamrus here is a negative preservation. And the depths of the laws in them, and all the pathways of relating to them, who so care the individual, the base Yisroel analyzes, so, and we know how to relate or not relate these things. B'dinei Torah v'hakoros emunah, through the dinim of the Torah and our cognition of emunah, b'das v'useses ruach hamit, then useses ruach hamitz, with a firm cognizance and strong spirit. Korela am as, which is appropriate for a brazen nation. Asher Ozlo himself, whose brazenness and whose strength comes from the Kodesh Baruch Hu. So both these pieces make basically the same, similar points, which are there's very powerful forces out there which are very enticing, and the foreign forces, and they can lead people astray, and especially if they seem to have some sort of false light about them. So Am Yisrael has to know to safeguard itself from this and make sure to stay away and at most to take what's positive from them and bring it back into Judaism. Okay, I'm not sure how successful we were with this, but it is sound advice.
Yes. Maybe if people would have read this paragraph, they might have been inspired.
The question too, Rav Kook was speaking. I think it seems that he actually thought that people would read this and say, "Oh, okay, I'm not going to be a socialist anymore. I'm not going to be a Zionist. I'm going to be a Yerushalmi."
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that actually was realistic.
I just saw a story. I have a little book here about the Musar people, and there's a little story about the Alter of Navardik and his desire always for truth. He just wanted to know the truth, whatever it was. If he had to change everything in his life because of the truth, then he would do it. And he was just in an inn, and he was talking to a maskil. They were talking and arguing and discussing, and they were going back and forth. And the maskil, he was ready to leave or getting ready to leave, so he had a man there, his driver. He said, "Get the wagon ready. I'm coming in a few minutes." And so the Alter said, he stopped talking. So the guy said, "Well, why are you stopping talking?" He says, "If you're ready to go, then obviously you're not going to go somewhere else in the direction that we're discussing. You're finished." He says, No, we're still talking." He says, No, we're finished. You already decided you're going to your wagon. That means that whatever I say in this discussion, you've already decided that that's not what you want to listen to. You could still talk," he says, "but I don't do that." He says, if we're talking about the truth, maybe I'll tell you something in the next minute or two before you leave that you'll have to go in a different direction, and you won't be ready to go into the wagon. The fact that you got your wagon ready shows that you already made up your mind.
Right.
And such a discussion is just like an esoteric discussion, which I don't involve myself.
Right. So I think in the end, Rav Kook ends up preaching to the choir, because not who else is going to read Orot? But okay, maybe there were a few people who were mushba by it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful prose and elegant ideas presented in an organized way. It's quite lovely. It's beautiful.
Okay, shkoyach.
It's still frustrating, but it's very beautiful.
It is beautiful. Exactly. Okay, take care.
Okay.
Have a good night.
Have a good week.